Afternoon, good morning to wherever you are. This is Kumar from Emagia Corporation. First, let me take the honor to thank you all for joining us today. Let's go over a few housekeeping items before we start the webinar. I would like to request you all to please mute your phones during the presentation. For all the attendees with questions, we will have a Q&A session at the end of the presentation. Would like to request you to key in your questions on the WebEx chat to the host, and your questions will be answered sequentially. If we are unable to get to any of your questions due to the time constraints, we will respond to them separately over an email over to you. And for today's agenda, we have with us 𝗕𝗲𝘀𝘁 talking about providing finance transformation, a focus on order to cash. 𝗕𝗲𝘀 has been working in the field of credit and collections for more than 20 years and has an extensive experience as a consultant in all areas of order to cash lifecycle. She's currently serving as a Director of Analytic Services at Emagia Corporation. And without taking much of your time anymore, let me welcome 𝗕𝗲𝘀 to start the presentation. Over to you, 𝗕𝗲𝘀. Thank you.
Thank you, Akshay. Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Today's presentation will take approximately an hour. I will try and allow enough time at the end of the presentation to answer some questions. And as Akshay said, if we don't have time for those questions, please feel free to email us, and we'll try and get to those questions as quickly as possible. If there are any questions throughout the presentation, please use the chat button, and we will address the questions as we speak. So before we get started and I talk about finance transformation in the order-to-cash arena, I'm going to talk just a little bit about Emagia, our company, so that you know a little bit about who we are, what we do, and why we feel confident to speak so much on order-to-cash. Emagia itself has been around for about 14 years. As you can see on the presentation, we have a number of marquee customers. We really specialize in working with companies that have large amounts of transactions that want to automate and make more efficient the order-to-cash functions. We work a lot with companies with global shared service centers, companies like consumer product industries that want to address dispute and deduction issues. Our products are available in many countries, in most languages, and in multiple currencies. And we've really been quite successful over the years in working with our customers to help improve working capital metrics, improving cash flow, and working on all things really to optimize and make more efficient those areas of order to cash. Our main solution that Emagia sells is a receivables management suite. We sell 6 different modules, so we optimize all of the different areas of order to cash. We have credit management, portfolio management, which is true accounts receivable management. We have collections management, which allows collectors a task list and daily tasks to help them in the collection activities with letters and things like that. We have deductions and dispute management, a cash application module, and a customer financials module, which is truly a CRM portal which allows your customers to go in and pull up things like invoices and statements. Emagia is truly known as an analytics company. We specialize in providing complex analytics and reporting with dashboards and visualizations with all of our different modules. Emagia is able to reside above any ERP, legacy, and spreadsheet so that you get a single viewpoint into your receivables. So with that, let me begin the presentation. If you have any questions or want to learn more about Emagia, we can certainly do that offline. I'm sure today that you're here, you want to learn about finance transformation in order to cash. So the agenda for today is pretty simple. We're first going to talk about what is finance transformation, so the definition of finance transformation. Next, we'll talk about the changing focus of the CFO. So how is it that your management is changing their role and changing the view of how they see the organization and really how you fit into that picture and how finance transformation and automation fits in with your corporate goals. Next, we'll talk about why start with order to cash. Why is this a great area for optimization, automation, and making more efficient the processes? Where to begin, and then we'll talk about how you get started. So this is really, by the time you finish today, you should be very confident in at least having the framework and the groundwork laid to decide where your company can best automate processes, where how you define finance transformation personally, and the areas that would most benefit your organization. So before we begin, I'm going to start, there's two polling questions that we have in our presentation. I want to start briefly by asking the group a polling question, and I'm going to open this now and start the polling. So we're really curious, do you currently have a finance transformation initiative or project in the works? You'll have a minute to answer yes or no, and then we'll move on. All right. Looks like we've got the results. It looks like, you know, about 50% have said yes. We haven't got answers on some, and really about, 14% have said no. So it looks like a lot of you are already looking at finance transformation. You're considering how you can do it, and hopefully today will give you some ideas as to where you can start the process. So research has shown that most people want their finance department to take a more strategic role in the management of the company. Today we're going to show you how automation and technology will help you to become strategic agents in this change. In my personal experience, few companies focus on availing themselves of all the technologies that are available today. There's a lot of things out there, and I think a lot of it is just learning about what's available to you and how they best fit in with your company. Today's webinar is specifically going to focus on the technologies and automation tools that relate to the order-to-cash functions. So what is transformation? Truly, in the strictest definitions, transformation is the act or process of transforming, the state of being transformed, changing in form, appearance, nature, or character. So what does that really mean to your organization? Simply put, it's change. It's changing your organization. It's a strategic shift in the purpose or means of executing your corporate finance roles or major process level changes. What it means to you as a company may vary, and hopefully by the end of today you'll have the means available to you to help you define what finance transformation means to you in your specific organization. It can take many different forms. So the way we look at finance transformation is really in 4 different components. Finance transformation can be structure. So it can be how you set up your company, how you lay out staff. Do you have a shared service center? Do you centralize locations? You can change your business and optimize it by how you structure your business. It can also be your processes, and we'll talk a bit about processes today. Finance tends to have, especially the order-to-cash functions, a lot of manual tasks and a lot of time-consuming tasks. So it can be achieved in terms of processes. It can also be achieved in terms of people. How are you structuring your people? Where are your people located? Looking at those various roles and seeing where, how do you have your staff allocated to things? And then the main thing that we focus on is technology. We as a company really believe that technology is at the heart of finance transformation. We utilize systems and tools that are available to us to help improve and operationalize the business, automate the business, make things more efficient so that these manual tasks that I talk about can be automated, and that the people in your organization can be freed up to do other tasks. They can do other tasks that we would consider more value-added tasks. So there's a couple, I have a couple quotes out here, and I think they help you to understand how the world of finance is looking at finance transformation today. Finance transformation, first and foremost, is not an IT project. And I think that's a concept that is really, it's a really good place to start. You need to wrap your head around the fact that it needs to be driven by the business. It needs to be driven by the finance organization, at least in terms of order to cash. It is something that if you are not behind as an organization, it's not going to happen. Clearly, you need IT support, you need IT help, but you really need to be the champions of making this happen within your organization. So finance transformation in itself is change designed to meet your changing needs. It's used to adjust your business realities and align finance department activities with those of your business. So why is that so important? You need to understand what your executives, what your board of directors, what your company's mission is, and you want to create transformative ideas, transformative processes that align with this concept within your business. It can take several different roles. As I said earlier, it can be role modification. So you're shifting from strictly an accounting department to more of a strategic focused organization. You can help drive business. You can help show where and how you can improve customer satisfaction. You can use automation to determine where there may be shortcomings, the kinds of things that are making your customers happy, that are making them, want to purchase more product. It can take the form of process change and process improvement. So how are you doing things today? Are these processes currently working for you? Where can you improve them? Where can you improve them to speed up cash flow, to increase employee satisfaction, to increase customer satisfaction? How can you make these changes and process improvements? We talked a little bit a second ago about structural reorganization. Many of you out there may be looking at how you want to structure your organization. Would it be best to have a shared service center? So are you going to optimize some of these manual tasks by centralizing them? Are you going to get more bang for your buck by having a shared service center? Is it better to decentralize? A lot of companies look at shared service centers, they look at moving them to lower cost regions. That may not work for your organization. You may be able to keep your processes in the specific locations they currently reside, and you may get more efficiency simply by automating and optimizing those roles. And of course, what we like to think of is changing technology finance from finance 1.0 to 2.0, moving to the next generation, moving to more robotics, more automation, more more moving away from the manual type processes. So again, we talk about the people, process, structure, and technology. Certain areas, people in your organization, it's key when you start thinking about automation to think about the people in your organization. As you start to make these changes within the business and you start automating, you need to make sure that you maintain stability. You may look at wanting to grow the business and not increase headcount. You may have been given a directive to reduce headcount. Whatever you do and however you start these projects, you need to be able to maintain stability within the organization as you look at these advanced organizational structures. In terms of process, what do you need to do? To begin the process, you need to define your vision. What is the end result? What is the outcome that you want to get from these projects? Is it something like regulatory compliance? Do you have SOX requirements? Do you have audit requirements? Is it, how are you needing to address these areas? Are you looking at process reengineering because they're just not working? You have only 15 collectors on your team, but you can't seem to get calls to every single one of them. Your DSO is high. Your bad debt is high. Do you need to re-engineer the process? Do you have benchmarks or KPIs that you have to meet? Sometimes, you might have loan covenants that require certain accounts receivable metrics. You might be getting pressure from the street. You might be a publicly held entity, and they're looking at things like your DSO. All these things can drive the processes. And of course, is it part of your growth strategy? Your company may be in a significant growth mode, and they're looking at doing so without adding headcount. Third is the structure. So you want to create a framework that allows you to lower costs. Lower costs typically are the main drivers of automation and efficiency. So you need to look at what works best for your company. Again, is it a shared service center? Is it a hybrid? So a combination of a shared service center for certain processes. Do you want to outsource? Have you considered using a BPO? Is it more cost effective to move the processes offshore to a third party? And then finally, technology, and again, technology is where we're going to spend most of our time today. Technology will help you to optimize these processes. You need to look, though, before you get started, at what your system requirements are. Do you have an ERP? Do you have multiple ERPs? What are your reporting requirements from these systems? And of course, what is your acquisition strategy? Are you looking at, is your company growing inorganically? Do you need to be able to bring new entities into the fold rapidly and bring them on board with minimal downtime? So I want to talk a little bit about the changing CFO focus. As I said at the outset, the CFO really drives what you are doing as an organization. And the CFO's role has really changed in recent years, and they're certainly getting a lot of pressures from the outside. So what are your CFO's challenges? Some of you may know. You may have a direct relationship. You may spend a lot of time with your CFO. Some of you may not be aware that all these challenges are coming down from above. The CFO tends to get a lot of pressures, certainly from the board of directors. The board of directors give them a lot of directives. They may be in terms of improving working capital. Working capital is certainly a metric that they look at in Wall Street, the analysts look at. Certainly if you have any borrowing relationships with their bank, they're always looking at working capital metrics. Accounts receivable is probably the easiest area to make a positive impact on your working capital. They're also getting a lot of pressure to reduce bad debt expense. Companies can't afford to have significant write-offs. You can't afford to be selling to customers that are not going to pay you. Additionally, they're looking at improving KPIs, cash flow and DSO. They need to speed up the cash flow. Importantly as well is that your CFO, your controller, your VP of finance also needs to know when to expect cash to come in. Optimum cash forecasting is key in any business. Clearly, they're looking at reducing costs and generating additional revenue. And the one thing that you might not think of as a real finance role, but you and the CFO should be looking at customer retention. You want to be able to sell to customers. You want the customers to be able to come back. You want to make it easy to do business with your customers. We get our lead from the CFO and the CEO in any organization. Look to your CFO to be the person to define transformation. I have a couple studies here I'm not going to spend too much time on, but as you can see, this comes from Business Insider magazine, and it's showing the areas that CFOs are focusing on today. And as you can see, some of the top areas include cash forecasting, accounts receivable, working capital management, invoicing and billing, and things like pricing. Again, another survey that we have from 𝗕𝗏𝗀𝗃 Systems, the quest for a single version of truth. So in addition to focusing on all these areas, companies are looking for a single way to see their accounts receivable data, their cash data, in a single source. All of these are top priorities within the finance organization and coming from the CFO's office. So let's get to the heart of the matter. Why start with order to cash? Why is this such a great area to begin with? I apologize, I went too far. So let's talk about the challenges in these areas. Why start with them? Before we know why to start with them, you should know why these areas cause us challenges. First off, in today's world, cash application. Cash application is a slow and meticulous task. You get payments from a variety of different areas, different divisions. It takes you a long time. We tend to have a lot of staff focusing on applying cash, and there is little ability with the current environment to apply cash quickly. Cash application is probably one of those areas that has been the most neglected. It is also one of those areas where you can get tremendous value out of automating the processes. Credit management's another area where the challenges tend to reside. Customers that take a long time to be brought on board tend to be dissatisfied very early in the process. The way it is today, credit applications come through, they may get mailed, they may get faxed, they may get emailed, they come in from a variety of different sources. It's slow, they get lost. The approval time can take up to weeks. You might have to mail out credit references and things like that. Paper documents are in many locations. It's a very challenging process. The review process in terms of credit limits is also challenging. Many times we get the customers in, we get a new credit limit because we get a lot of pressure from our salespeople to get them on board quickly. You might have a month-end or quarter-end obligation. Those kind of things take a lot of time. But then once a year, once every 6 months, you need to review these customers. A lot of that gets lost, and it makes it very difficult if you have things like SOX requirements or procedural requirements in terms of monitoring and the ongoing review of your customers. Invoicing is another area where we have a lot of challenges in today's day and age. Printing and mailing costs are high. There are many people, and I'm sure there's a lot of you on the phone, that are still mailing your invoices manually. You're putting them in an envelope with a stamp. Somebody has to do that. To be quite honest, it's an archaic process. Nobody should have to mail anything via snail mail. Your customers want access to their invoices. They want to be able to get things online. They want to be able to get them in real time. They want to get them when they want to get them. They want 24/7 access. And finally, the challenges reside in cash collections. Right now, it's inconsistent focus. You may have collectors that aren't getting to every account. They may not know who they've worked with. You don't have a great place to keep notes. You're not having timely follow-up. All of these things are big challenges within the order-to-cash organization. What you see on the screen right now really depicts, it's a picture of all of what is happening in today's organization. Lots of department, disparate groups, many processes, many systems. You might have information on Excel. You might have information in one ERP system. You might have done an acquisition and had information in other systems. It is very difficult to be able to pull up information in a single source. So as a company, we have a lot of experience at working with customers, and we've seen a lot of issues within order-to-cash management. The top 5 areas where we've really seen problems, and I think everybody that's on the phone is truly going to see, I think you can all relate to this. First off, the order-to-cash process spans many departments, locations, and many systems. Many of you, as I said, you're pulling information from a lot of different sources. You may be asked to do a DSO calculation or a cash forecast, and you can't really do it accurately because you don't have a single source. You don't have a view into all of your data. It's all in many systems, and you don't have a single view. You also don't have timely reports. We found that a lot of customers that we've worked with in the past have challenges meeting their reporting needs. They can't get the kinds of reports they need. They can't share those reports within the organization. It's a very difficult thing to do to meet those month-end and quarter-end and sometimes weekly reporting needs. Another problem that we see is managing order-to-cash efficiency. It's difficult and it's expensive. Many of these manual tasks are time-consuming. They're expensive. Many customers come to us looking for something that in the end, the ROI greatly outweighs what they're currently doing today. And then finally, the last of the biggest problems that we see is predicting cash flow, predicting forecasts. A lot of you are probably still using spreadsheets. You're probably taking a percentage of your current bucket and a percentage of your 1 to 30. And these forecasts are not accurate. They don't address things like seasonality or specific products that get paid slow or any other specifics that go on with your customers. Modern automation, analytics, and things like this allow us to have very accurate cash flow forecasting. So we really see two different kinds of cases when it comes to the telltale signs that you need transformation. And I think you're going to relate to one of the two of these. One is that you need to optimize your costs and your efficiency. You need to get a global view. You need to get control of your organization. You may have high DSO, so you need to improve your cash flow. You're struggling with balance sheet metrics. Your working capital is not looking good. You have high bad debt. You need to lower your cost of financing. The second kind of case that we see is a growing business. You might be rapidly growing. You might be growing because you have great products, and those products are in high demand. So now you've got higher invoicing. You've got more customers coming on board. There's increasing drive and push on the internal organization to do things, and yet you were told you can't hire any more staff. You might be growing inorganically, where you're bringing in new businesses. You've done acquisitions or mergers. You need to onboard these various parts of the organization. All of these things are components that tell you that you can benefit from automation and of the order-to-cash processes. All right, so I'm going to open our second and last polling question very quickly. And okay, bear with me, and the poll is now open. So what issues are you experiencing today that can benefit from finance transformation? Is it DSO, cash forecasting, collections, credit analysis, cash applications, or some other area? I'll give you a second to answer, and then we'll move on. All right, so it looks to me like most of you, the issues are DSO, collections, and credit analysis seem to be the biggest areas in need of finance transformation. And I'll tell you that that is probably the areas that we as a company get the most requests for. So where do you begin? Our experience, my personal experience, we have come up with the 10 must-haves. So these are the 10 things that you really need in an optimal order-to-cash automation. The first one is a single source of truth, and each one of these I'm going to go into in a little more detail in a second. The second is credit decision-making, so a automated credit decision-making process and tool. Electronic invoice presentment and payment, a collection strategy with daily task lists, form, scripts, letters, and correspondence, so templates, automated letters, automated statements, and things like that. A way to process your disputes and deductions, a way to automate your cash application, a cash forecasting tool, a portal that your customers can use to pull down information, and finally, dashboards, reporting, and analytics. So the one thing that I want to point out before I go into more detail on all of these things, let me just tell you, you should be looking at this as which one of these or which of these can benefit your company. You can't start out an automation process and boil the ocean. Doing all 10 of these at once is probably highly unlikely. You need to sit down, you need to understand what your company's needs are, what your needs are, look at the areas where you're having the most difficulties, where are the areas that your company needs to focus on, and then figure out which one of these best fits your needs. Ultimately, I'd like to see every company do every single one of these. It would be great. But again, it needs to be sort of a modular or systematic approach to onboarding these different processes. So the first one is a single source of truth. The picture you see here really is actually, it happens to be a picture of the Emagia system. This would be a typical implementation that our company would do. We happen to be partners with people like SAP and Oracle. Any good company that you go to that you're looking at automating your processes should be able to give you a single view into your receivables. They should have pre-built connectors to most of the big ERP systems. They should be able to pull your data from one or many sources so that you can see information that comes from, say, you may have one region. I've worked at a lot of companies where countries like Japan still are not on the ERP system because it's very expensive to implement in those regions, and they remain on spreadsheets. A good system should give you a single view of your receivables, whether it comes from a spreadsheet, a legacy system, or a big ERP system like an SAP, an Oracle, a J.D. Edwards, or something like that. It should also allow you to break out that information. So it should have filters if you want to see information by business unit or by product. So while you've got a centralized view, it should also give you reporting into these various components of your business so that you could see either by region, by business unit, or type. It should give you a centralized data management system. It should allow you to see all your documents in one place. You should also be able to leverage things like big data and data warehousing. So if you have a large amount of structured and unstructured data that you want to pull from a variety of sources, you should be able to see it in one place. You should be able to report on all of it in a single report. And conversely, you should be able to use all this information to be able to break it out and see it in various solutions. The benefits you get from this is you have faster information to faster access to receiving your information. It's great for data mining if you want to do analytics, if you want to truly analyze all of your accounts receivable data. It helps you if you want to bring new acquisitions into the fold. And certainly if you're looking at doing something like a shared service center or a BPO, it helps you as a company to be able to see all that information. The next area, and probably one of the areas that I think as a company Emagia has spent a lot of time working on, is automating the credit decision process. It's probably the simplest, the easiest, and the most inexpensive way to start your process. If you have a number of credit applications that you process in any single month, the easiest, again, and most cost-effective way is just creating an online credit application. Our company, for example, has a tool called 𝗕𝗲𝘀𝑚𝗲𝐴PPLICATION.com. You can go to the website. It's very easy to do. In terms of the way our company works, and I'm sure other companies as well work, we let you create an online template. You can put in your own logo. You determine what fields you want your customer to see. You send the new customer or the existing customer a link to the website. You can actually put that link on your corporate website. You can give it to your salespeople to give to them. Your potential customer goes in, clicks on that link. They fill in the online template. All the fields that are required are there. They submit their credit reference, their trade references through that online application. Everything is there. It's available. Once it's all filled in, they digitally sign it. Digital signatures in this day and age have held up in most courts in most countries. It's verified. They can agree to your terms and conditions in an online credit application. Ours, for example, gives you 3 free-form fields where you can cut and paste in your terms and conditions. They sign and date the credit application. They hit submit, and now you as a company have a completed credit application in your inbox. That's the basics of online credit application. It's cheap, it's fast, it's easy. Then if you couple these online credit applications with some other components that are available, you can have credit reference checks done digitally. Pardon me. You can have the credit references when your customer hits submit. Those references, 2 or 3 trade references, can go out to the trades. They get a link. The reference opens the link. They fill in all the trade reference. They hit submit. That comes back also to your inbox. Same thing can happen with a bank reference. All of these things can be automated. Everything should be available to you. You can see all your credit applications in a workbench so that you can manage these. Credit applications, online credit applications give you the ability to attach financial statements. Another really great component of automating the credit process is automated credit scoring. Any good system, ours for example, allows you to pull information from a third-party source. You can pull scoring information, say, from Dun & Bradstreet, Experian, NTCR, any of these various credit-safe. Third-party, you can structurally set up scoring as you want, and you can automatically approve credit limits. So you can basically automate about 90% of the credit approval process. Only the ones that are rejected, the ones that might have a low score, then you have to manually look at and make a decision. It allows you to leverage all the technologies that you have available. It allows you to use workflows. It allows you to follow policy. You've now got a standardized process for onboarding and approving your customers. Any good system also has an automated reminder system. So maybe as part of your SOX compliance, you have to review credit once a year. You can have all of that set up in a good automated credit scoring, credit decision-making system. Again, I highly recommend if you have a lot of applications, you look at something like this. It's, I use the term all the time, more bang for your buck. Credit decision-making automated, at least especially the online credit applications, it's where you get the most value for your money, and it's really a great place to start the automation process. Electronic invoice presentment and payment. It's another great area. You can schedule mass emails that send your invoices out to people. I said it before and I'll say it 100 times. Customers do not want paper invoices anymore. They want to be able to go online. They want to be able to receive an invoice in an inbox. They want to know it's coming timely. It's a great way to reduce costs. I mean, just paying somebody minimum wage in a mailroom to send invoices, you probably have thousands of invoices that go out every month. You can automate this. You can It will go out with the push of a button. You never have to see it. You can also receive payments through these systems. Considering a system that allows you to make payments through the system so that you can accept a wire payment, an EDI payment, or an ACH payment. All of these things provide you with much more efficiency throughout the process. A lot of customers, as you know, are going away from using paper checks. This allows you to go along with the system. It also allows you to receive your payments much more quickly. Again, all of these things help improve cash flow and reduce things like DSO. Automated collection activities. What I would say is this is, while credit applications are probably the #1 most inexpensive way to get started, automating the collection activities are probably the area where you will get the most value in terms of time savings. Systems like ours will allow you to automate your collection strategy. So what do you want in a good automated collections tool? First off, you want a rule-based system so that you can set up rules so that your collectors come in every day and they see an inbox of activities. They no longer have to see an entire aging. They no longer have to print an aging. They no longer have to make notes on an aging. They are seeing the activities based on a series of scoring and rules that they should do on a daily basis. It may be sending a letter. It may be making a follow-up on a past due invoice. It may be a proactive call. You should be able to structure those rules simply and easily so that your collectors see a specified task list. A good system should allow for automated invoice, letter, and statements to be sent. So you should be able to set up templates that you can send out at various intervals, whether it's billing statements on a monthly basis. It's past due letters, you know, a 15-day letter, a 30-day letter. It might be a proactive letter that comes out right before month end or quarter end that reminds your customers that they need to make a payment. It should have a good note-taking system. Ours, for example, allows our customers to make notes at both the invoice and customer level. It should also allow you to send invoices from the system. So you just had a conversation with your customer and you want to say, thank you very much, I appreciate that you are looking into this, here's the copy of that invoice you wanted. You can attach invoices, you can attach statements. A good system should also allow you to be able to put in promises to pay. You just had a discussion with your customer, they're going to make a payment in 5 days, so they say. You put in a future date. Then your system should have a tickler that reminds you in 5 days if that promise to pay is broken. All of these things should be automated. The days of looking at an aging, a full-blown aging, and guessing who I should make the calls from shouldn't happen. A good system should also allow you, if a collector's out, to be able to move, you know, management should be allowed to move accounts from one collector to another. It should be smart decision making. None of this, you shouldn't have to come in on a daily basis and make the decision as to where your calls need to be made. It allows for consistent customer interactions. Your customers are happy because they know you're only talking to them when necessary. It's minimizing some of the interventions, it's improving efficiency, and it's really standardizing all of the processes. Automating collections activities is great. Whether you have disparate organizations, you can use this, whether you have regional offices, whether you have a shared service center, whether you have a BPO, or you have one central location where you're operating all of your collections from. Finally, a good system should have a manager's viewpoint so that the manager can see all of the various collectors' activity and be able to segregate that, see how one collector is doing at any one given time. Next, automated correspondence. I talked a little bit about this, but this is really key. The time spent mailing dunning letters, mailing statements, you know, all of these reminder letters and follow-up letters, it's archaic. All of this should be automated in today's day and age. You can, again, nobody should be faxing letters. Most offices don't even have fax machines anymore. Most people expect to receive things in an email inbox. The fact that you have to think about when a reminder letters come up, that somebody may have to sit on the 15th of every month and send a billing statement, all of that is a thing of the past. Look for a system that allows you to have automated correspondence and consistent correspondence. Disputes and deductions, you know, we see a lot of this, you know, I think I mentioned at the outset, we have a lot of customers, consumer products type customers, anybody that sees a lot of short pays in their product or their billing statements. They might do a lot of time and material billing or things like that. Automating the resolution of disputes and deductions is a huge customer satisfaction area. Any good system should allow you to work with your cash application module so that you can, from a short pay or manually create a dispute or deduction. You should be able to attach reason codes to any of these. You should be able to create a workflow. So, for example, you have a product shortage. It should flow directly to your shipping department to follow up on. The way that I have seen automated disputes and deductions used to its fullest within, you know, most companies is they operationalize the reporting that they get from these root causes. You go through, you look at where your customers are most deducting, whether it's by dollar or by volume, and you look at it and you can proactively change these areas of the business. We talked earlier about being agents of change in the business. How can you be a driver of business? This is one of the greatest areas where finance and the order-to-cash team can really change the structure of the business. Looking at your disputes and deductions and finding a way to fix these problems on the front end. Leverage the technologies and collaborate with all of the other organizations in the business. It'll help you to reduce write-offs, especially bad debt, and it'll help you, I really think it will help and improve customer satisfaction. Automated cash application, again, probably we talked about this earlier, one of the least addressed areas within the business. Most systems, a system like ours, where it's got automated interfaces with the business, it's got automated matching of invoices to remittances, gives you suggested matches, you should be able to automate 90% of the cash application that comes in the business. Your team should really be looking at managing exceptions. If you have a large team who's spending most of their day applying cash application is a great area to look at. It allows you to interface with your bank. It allows you to interface with third-party systems, things like, say, an Ariba purchasing system to pull in information on invoices and remittance advice. It allows you to automatically offset. It should also combine with some machine learning so that it knows if this customer typically puts a sales order number instead of an invoice number, over time your system should be able to learn that and automatically offset that information more quickly. A good system should also create disputes. So if you've got a short pay, it should allow you to go and create dispute management. This is a great way to leverage artificial intelligence for matching remittance information to invoices and to speed up the payment process. Anybody that has worked in the accounts receivable area knows that the way to anger a customer very quickly is when they've made a payment and your collector makes a call and says this invoice is due, when they say we already paid this. This can speed it up. Now all you have to do is manage the exceptions. A Self-service portal is another great way to improve customer satisfaction. Give your customers a way to go online, pull up invoices, make payments, make promises to pay. Customers want 24/7 access to you. Most of us cannot be available 24/7. It's not a realistic thought for somebody in the business to be available. Put some of the decision-making back into your customers' hands. Allow them the access, allow them instant access. Forecasting we talked a little bit about earlier. You know, I talked a little bit about the fact that most of you are probably using spreadsheets. I can't tell you how many times when I worked in business that I had somebody from FP&A on my doorstep constantly asking me for a daily, a weekly cash forecast, an updated forecast. I can imagine the pressure that all of you have being asked to have accurate forecasts. Most cash forecasts are not accurate. People keep updating them throughout the month so that they become accurate by about the 29th or 30th day of the month. You want a system that utilizes machine learning, that uses the history of payments, that allows you to be able to forecast down to the invoice level, to the customer level. You want to be able to utilize advanced technologies from analytics to be able to set goals for your collectors and to be able to accurately predict when the payments are going to come in. Our system, for example, has a 6-week rolling forecast. Our system uses machine learning. So over time, it sees how customers pay. It sees how they pay on a specific product. It sees how they pay at specific times of the month. We had a customer, for example, that was in the agrochemical business. They couldn't predict their cash. They were probably 30 or 40% accurate. They implemented our system. They were able to see that there was a very seasonal spike in June when most of the farmers planted. We were able to help them look at various products and see how they paid, see how specific customers paid. We automated their cash forecasting and we got them to about 92% accuracy. You need to find a system that allows you to get to that kind of accuracy. Using a spreadsheet and percentages is no longer an accurate way, and the tools are definitely available to you to have much more accurate cash forecasting. Finally, dashboards and analytics. I'm sure many of you on the call have seen, had requests from management that they want to see how AR is doing on a daily basis. They want to see how orders are doing on a daily basis. They want to see how your cash is coming in. They want to see how your forecasts are. They want push-button reporting. Many of you want reporting so that you can work with your staff. You can sit down and tell them how efficient your collectors have been, how many credit applications have come through, credit limit utilization. All of these things should be available at your fingertips. Having a system that allows you to have push-button reporting, have dashboards, analytics, visualizations into how your system is working is all necessary to have a modern-day efficient system. Something like ours, for example, we allow our dashboards to be done in Excel or PDF. We give views to CFOs if they want to come in the morning and just push a button and see how their order-to-cash team is doing. All of these things are available in an automated system. Finally, you want a tool that scales with your business. You want a tool that allows you to bring new systems into the fold, new systems that may come from mergers and acquisitions, systems that come from growth. You want to be able to drive down your cost per transaction. You don't want a system that requires downtime anytime you need to bring in more of the organization. And you want to be able to access new lines of business, that information, as quickly as possible. So again, all of these things, I think, are great areas when you start considering how you want to automate your business. And again, the intent is not to say to do all of them at once. It's to figure out which areas work best for your business and where to start the process. So now you've got an idea of the kinds of areas that you can implement. So how do you get started? First, again, you need to go back and assess your current state. Where are you in your ERP growth? Are you implementing a new ERP system? Do you have a system that is stable? What does your current environment look like? What are the capabilities of your ERP system? What are the capabilities? How much IT support can you get in a project? How much IT support is whichever vendor you choose going to require? You need to know what your current environment that you're working with today. How are you currently reporting? How much staff do you have? Do you need to, do you have the ability to increase staff? Do you need to reduce staff? Is your management asking you to consider a shared service environment? Look at your current state and get very clear with what your picture is today. Then you need to establish an end goal. What do you want to get? Is my goal to reduce DSO by 5 days? Is my goal to reduce a percentage of bad debt write-offs? Is my goal to decrease headcount by 10%? Is my goal to grow revenue 20% and not increase headcount? All of these things, you need to know what your end state needs to be, especially before you go to management and start asking for these kind of tools. You also need to know the cost. You need to review various vendors. You need to look at what vendors are out there that do have the tools that you're looking for. And you need to create an ROI. Any vendor worth its salt will help you work on an ROI so that you can really justify the costs for implementing any system. We sit down with many of our customers and we provide them with both tangible and intangible benefits if you were to implement our system. How can you specifically gain back all the costs of the system? Those are your tangible results. There's also intangible things like customer satisfaction. Maybe you have low customer satisfaction scores. Maybe your company, your marketing department tracks things like that. You want a system that will give you both tangible and intangible results. Finally, create a timeline. How long do you have to implement this tool? Is it a short tool? Is it a short timeline? Then maybe you only want to do something like an online credit application. Do you have a little more time and a little more expense, and do you want to spend it on a full-blown end-to-end order-to-cash implementation? Know your timelines, and when you investigate vendors and when you check and you decide to go ahead with the process, do not start without a very specific timeline, and hold your vendors accountable to those timelines, as well as holding your internal people accountable to those timelines. So what are some of the tangible benefits? I think we talked a lot about them, but I want to review really quickly so that you know. And these are all good things to know when you sit down and talk to your management, whether it's your controller, your VP of finance, your CFO, and start saying, I want these tools in our organization, and here's why. Some of the tangible benefits are DSO reduction, very clear. You've got a better collection tool, you're going to speed up cash flow, you're going to reduce your days sales outstanding. You're going to optimize your staff, whether it's not increasing headcount and growing, or it's reducing headcount, or really shifting people to more valuable tasks. It's going to reduce your cost per transaction. You need to be able to reduce, you need to be able to reduce the cost of sending out invoices or sending out statements. You're going to get better accuracy. You're going to have less disputes and deductions, which lead to slower payments. You're going to have a quicker conversion of your receivables to cash. You're going to minimize bad debt, and you're certainly going to reduce the time and expense it takes to complete all of these tasks. So with that, I know I went through very quickly. I'm going to open the line up, the chat line up. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to ask them at this time, and I'll give you a second to ask those questions. All right, so my first question is, what areas does your business more frequently get automation requests for? I think I talked about that a little bit earlier. As I said, the two biggest areas are credit and collections. Credit, being the area where I think it's the lowest cost for what you get for starting out an automation process. Collections being the area where I think you get the most value, you get the biggest time savings. Hopefully that answers the question. I have a second question. How fast should you expect results from a project? Well, that really depends. It really depends on the kind of project. I think in something like collections, I think you're going to get a very fast turnover. I think you're going to start seeing cash come in much more quickly. Things like disputes and deductions, it may take a little more time to operationalize. In areas like the automation of cash application, certainly you're going to see that pretty quickly as well. Any more questions? All right, well with that, I want to thank everyone for joining us today on our webinar. If you have any questions or you'd like to talk to us further and learn more about automating and financial transformation within the order-to-cash process, please contact us. And again, thank you so much for joining us. Have a great day.